Good evening, folks. It's Diamond with the Oppenheimer Ranch Project, Magnetic Reversal News, Sacred Geography, and Shinrin-yoku, bringing you a grand solar minimum update Wednesday, January 11th, 6 p.m. Mountain Time 2023. The record snow continues to pile up in the Sierras, feet upon feet of snow, and that means heavy rain in the lowlands, and that's the big story. Thousands of Californians under evacuation orders as flood threat continues, and the death toll climbs to 17. Keep calm, it's boom time. Flash flood warning in San Francisco after Montecito and Santa Barbara evacuations. This is due to succession of atmospheric rivers, storm after storm, battering California. The National Weather Service warns of high surf, strong currents along the Southern California coast, so beware as a forest of driftwood washes up on Santa Cruz beaches amid the storms. Truckee and Tahoe ski resorts reporting 2 feet of snow with much more on the way as Nevada County declares a state of emergency. Yes, you are Janu-Buried, California. The ski resorts have received more than 300 inches of snow ho-ho this year. Highway 1 is closed for a second day due to downed trees and power lines, and flood warnings issued for areas along the Salinas River in Monterey County, as well as Sacramento, which is inundated, and we will link you below to a interactive inundation map to show you the 100-year floodplain and where Sacramento County could flood and is flooding. Now, don't jump in the puddles, especially in San Francisco. Sewage is overflowing into San Francisco Bay and the city streets during these storms. Millions of gallons of stormwater mixed with raw or partially treated sewage has poured into the bay. So, hey, don't be playing in those puddles. And many of the lakes in California are filling. It's pretty unbelievable. Central Coast Lake set to spill for the first time in a dozen years. And this is all due to the Pineapple Express, which has been renamed an atmospheric river.
Atmospheric river may sound like something new, but it's really just another name for the Pineapple Express. This is what we used to call the drenching warm rains that flow from just to the north of Hawaii. It turns out that the Pineapple Express is just one type of atmospheric river. Researchers in the 1990s determined that these narrow bands of moisture over the oceans constantly transport huge amounts of water from the tropics to the mid-latitudes where we live. These plumes of water vapor are narrow, usually only several hundred miles wide, but thousands of miles long, resembling a river in the sky. And these rivers are low in the atmosphere, generally less than 2 miles in depth, far below where jetliners fly. Despite being narrow, they carry unbelievable amounts of water. The largest atmospheric rivers may carry the equivalent of 2 Amazon rivers, almost 10 trillion gallons of water per day. Most of this water vapor stays in the clouds until it collides with land, like our west coast. Since all this water is low in the atmosphere, it's forced up over the mountains, and in the process, much of that water is dropped on the west-facing slopes. The most destructive atmospheric rivers are those that stall over one area and persist for days. These are the ones that can dump feet of rainfall and cause massive flooding and widespread landslides. However, weaker atmospheric rivers are important to our water supply. 30 to 50% of West Coast rainfall comes from atmospheric rivers.
So all this flooding is actually a blessing. How about that? How about them apples? Now, the snowfall analysis over the last 72 hours is quite impressive, and the snowpack is good. And the forecast is relentless wet weather to continue for the West Coast, especially California. The steady, moist onshore flow and atmospheric river regime into the West Coast will continue on Thursday, especially in portions of saturated California. Heavy to excessive rainfall is expected from Northern California to coastal areas in Oregon and Washington. Meanwhile, an intensifying storm system may produce isolated to scattered thunderstorms across parts of the South on Thursday as well. Here is that saturation we're talking about, and that is going to continue through Thursday, and some snow moving up into the Pacific Northwest as well. Thursday into Friday, and another slam into Northern California over the weekend. Here's Friday and Saturday, and then again Sunday, another wave, a bigger wave. Sunday could be the biggest wave yet, producing 3 to 5 more feet of snow during the entire event. So it is not over. Going to be continuing through the 18th here, midweek next week, and then a reprieve. So another 10 days or so of moisture for the West. And that's going to mean tons and tons of snow. Let's walk it through for you. Here is Thursday and Friday. Here is Saturday. Sunday, that is when most of the heavy snow in the Sierras are going to be dumping. And it is going to be moving down into the Four Corners region Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, where we're going to be picking up some much-needed moisture in the desert. As the systems continue to pile up in the west, a little Midwest system late in the week here, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 18th and 19th. And then, well, the models get a little murky, don't they? Seismic update. We did have some activity out here on the west coast, 5 magnitude here in the transition zone. But nothing of note. For the most part, mid-ocean ridges are moving. 6 magnitude here at the Pacific Rise. Worldwide volcano news update. Not much happening out of the ordinary on the volcanoes worldwide, which is good news. We have Krakatoa puffing to 10,000 and just a few other normal volcanic activity. And the sun has gone quiet as far as flaring, at least for the last 18 hours. Did have a flurry of M and X flares happening 24 hours ago, but that seems to have quieted down. But the overall general background X-ray flux is now ramping up into the high C range. And X-flare potential is 30%. So we're going to keep a close eye on the sun as several large sunspots are now facing us, like active region 3182. And 3186 gave us the last X-flare shooting off of the sun. So these two spots in a few days will be geo-effective. So 3182 is really the only spot that we're currently watching. And here's a must-watch. This video shows the green comet, Comet C 2022 E3 ZTF, which is making its first return to the inner solar system in 50,000 years. Now, this was the same time that Meteor Crater in Arizona was formed, and are they related? Here we are, beautiful footage of that comet entering the inner solar system. Now, according to NASA, the green comet is going to streak across the sky for the first time since the Stone Age. Well, that doesn't say much. The comet will make its closest approach Sunday on January 12th and will be closest to Earth 26.4 million miles away on February 2nd. So we have a few weeks to observe the comet. So stay tuned for more cometary displays. Now, Blood Falls gushes red water from Antarctica's ice, and it took scientists 106 years to figure out what causes the color. Take a look at that. Blood Falls gushing red water from Antarctica's ice. Creepy. Blood Falls is a waterfall of vibrant red water that oozes out of Antarctica's Taylor Glacier. Its unique color is due to iron salts seeping out of the ice that turn red when exposed to oxygen. Now, it was once thought a long time ago that this was due to algae, but that has been disproven now. The unique color is due to, in fact, iron salts seeping out of the ice that turn red when exposed to oxygen. You learn something new every day. How about this? This is how prehistoric infants were fed. With milk, of course, as in every era since the dawn of mankind. But now, for the first time since prehistoric times, mothers were not content with just their own milk to feed their babies, but also used the milk of ruminants, such as goats or cows, and used these cute little vessels to feed the babies. Now, the discovery was made using biomolecular archaeology. So, quite interesting. They examined the remains of 3 ancient vessels dating between 1200 and 450 BC and determined that they had, well, the milk of cows. So that's some pretty interesting archaeology there. Now, how about a little paleontology? An ancient bird with a T-Rex-like skull has been discovered in China. A 120 million year old bird fossil from China has some rather unusual dinosaur-like features. It otherwise standards avian skeleton, including a weirdly T-Rex-like skull. Now, many of you have probably heard of Archaeopteryx, which was the missing link between birds and dinosaurs. And here we have another example and more proof that chickens are, in fact, tiny dinosaurs. Now, speaking of chickens, egg prices have more than tripled in some states over the last year. It is mind-blowing. And Twitter users declare eggs a luxury item as prices soar. It's even being termed, eggs are the new Bitcoin. So go get you some chickens and grow some eggs. We've been telling you for years. Webb telescope turns up baffling views of the early universe. New results from the James Webb telescope is challenging prevailing models of the early universe. And scientists, well, they're baffled. Someone who's not baffled is Valentina Zarkova. And here we are going to link you to her website on solar activity and energetic particles. And her last blog post, frequency of volcanic eruptions will increase in cycle 26 that can reduce terrestrial temperatures. We're going to be discussing her recent papers on terrestrial volcanic activity and the sun next week. So stay tuned for an amazing interview with Valentina Zarkova on the channel. And that is a boom to knowledge. Proper prior planning prevents piss poor performance. Hope you got something out of the video. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Share this with like-minded people. Become a Patreon. Support the work we do. We love you. Be safe.